Hey everyone, welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. My name is Aaron, if we've never met, and I am one of the two co-hosts here on this podcast. Nils Smith is not joining me today, but I wanted to get an episode out to you guys just so that there isn't any gap in time. One of the things that we strive to do at the Social Media Church is get episodes out weekly on Thursday or Friday, depending. And part of just to be transparent, because we love you all and this is family. If you've been listening, we have thousands of listeners every single month to this podcast, and we've had multiple hosts. You can see all those hosts. We actually updated our Instagram. We're now just following, I think, 5 people, and it's anybody who's ever been a host of this podcast. And so if you want to kind of historically celebrate and see who you should be following, who's talking about social media in the church, we've been talking about this since 2013. You can go to our Instagram, follow us there. And so transparently, Nils and I, we just want you to know that the Social Media Church is something we care a lot about. But both Nils and I have full-time jobs outside of this podcast. And so transparently, sometimes there are episodes that fall through the cracks where we're like, oh, we don't have enough episodes recorded. And so I definitely don't want to record something to give you no value, to record something just to record something. And I think as you're leading your ministry and you're leading your church on social media and creating content, you should never just record content for the sake of recording content, but there should always be intentionality. And so we do have things that we like to talk about when there isn't another co-host on the podcast. And today is one of those days. There's actually a few people that are going to get a shout out at the end of this episode. We've been receiving so many messages on Instagram, on my personal Instagram, on our Social Media Church Instagram. There have been people joining our Discord server. And so actually there's been people messaging me that you can't find the link in the show notes. So at the end of this episode, I'm going to make sure that our team is across on all of that and making sure that that link is getting put in there. It will definitely be in the link of this episode, but we are trying to build our community around the Social Media Church in Discord. We opened our own Discord server, and I'm just falling more and more in love with Discord. And I've mentioned Sam a few times in the podcast. Sam is my desk buddy at work. And if you're new to the podcast, I oversee all things about the online campus at Shoreline City Church in Dallas, Texas. And so I have a desk buddy, graphic designer named Sam, and Sam and I have so many great conversations. And Sam is 20. I'm going to say Sam is 22. He might be 21, but I'm going to honor him and say he's 22. He thinks strategy-wise like he's 30. And Sam is quickly becoming one of my best friends. But Sam and I talk often about Discord and specifically in terms of reaching the next generation. I talk about Discord as the space that they're in community. There's also communities that are formed on Twitter. And so I've been trying to glean. Sam will be on the podcast one day. So don't worry, y'all will get to meet him. But also Twitter and communities on Twitter. And with Elon Musk, this is news that came out recently. I'm recording this podcast actually headed into Easter week here in the United States in 2022. And I muted myself there because I had to cough. I've been battling allergies. If you have never lived in Texas, there's crazy allergies here. I've never had allergies in my life. And I moved to Dallas, Texas, and all of a sudden I lost my voice this week. I have allergies. I'm coughing. I'm sneezing. Anyways, with Elon Musk recently buying Twitter, I'm just really excited to see where Twitter goes. I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast that Twitter is my absolute favorite social media platform. I think it's the purest form of social media. And so to hear Sam talking about the next generation forming community on Twitter and then seeing a guy like Elon Musk buying Twitter, I'm just really excited for what the future holds for social media in that space. And then obviously TikTok. And so these 3 main areas, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok, are really the places that community digitally is gathering for the next generation. And I saw something, I think it was in my Instagram feed, I saw a reel, or maybe a friend sent it to me, but it was, or maybe it was a TikTok. It would be even funnier if it's a TikTok. I actually think that it was about the content creator was talking about his 10-year-old niece telling him that he was ancient for being on Instagram, and I believe used the term "ew" in referencing Instagram. And so I think this is just, I'm opening this episode this way just as an encouragement to remind all of you to be intentional. And the social medias we use are only tools. Nils says this a lot. I've adopted this language as a church and as a ministry. And I believe just as a business, we have to be technology and social media agnostic. We are not married to any of those things. If a new thing comes out that serves the church or advances the gospel better, that is what we are going to shift to. And so we need to simultaneously be strategizing around the tools and the things that we do have to reach our congregations and those that we're impacting in our ministries. But we also have to be thinking about what's coming and what could be a better use of our time to invest in, and what could be a better tool that maybe hasn't existed before, but now it does. And so this podcast, as we've said so many times, will always be on that front line, helping you identify the new things that are coming, figuring out how to adopt those things practically and strategically into your ministry or church. Because we realize that not everybody has the time to read all the articles and understand all the things that are going on, or even have access to the voices. That's why we invite guests on, the voices that lead the space in these new areas. So we're always going to be giving you the best value, always going to be giving you the best opportunities to grow your ministry in the direction that it needs to go. I'm going to cough again here. All right. Also, if you hear my phone in the background, I have it on vibrate, but it is blowing up right now because we are getting ready for our Good Friday service, and there's certain areas that I'm overseeing. And so just lots of things going on there. So you'll have to excuse me as it's Easter. I know that when you all are hearing this episode, it will be after Easter. So before Easter happens for me, the other variant of myself in the future is saying happy Easter. I hope it was a great one for you and your church. Hopefully you're able to leverage technology and social media to bring all of the new people into your church. And hopefully they met Jesus and are now a part of your church. And that's the prayer and that's the hope. And that's why we create episodes like this. So I wanted to make mention of another thing that I've been interested in and that we're going to start experimenting with for the brand of Social Media Church. If you didn't know, we do have a YouTube channel. Now, most of you listen to this on podcast, which is great, and we love that, and we appreciate that. If you ever wanted to see what we look like, today I'm wearing my Guardians of the Galaxy. I got this for my birthday. It's Yondu, and it says, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." And so if you are familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy, at least the second movie, you will get the reference, and it's a great shirt. But if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening to this, you can head over to YouTube and you can actually see my shirt. But one of the strategies that we're going to start experimenting with on our YouTube channel is around YouTube Shorts. And one of the things that we've noticed is that there's one channel in particular. I don't know how many of you use the technology Social Blade, but Social Blade is, you can go to that website. They are kind of like the longest standing evaluation of YouTube channels based on analytics, and they present that data to you and kind of give you a backdoor glimpse into how YouTube channels are functioning and working. And so one of the channels on there is, I think the last time I checked, they're number 5 in the world. Out of all the YouTube channels, they are number 5. And the only thing that they post, and it's not even really well edited, the content is honestly pretty confusing to me. It's like, it doesn't really entertain me. They really use the same soundtrack for everything. But all this channel has posted for the past 5 months And again, this is they are ranking currently at the number 5 best performing YouTube channel. All they've posted is YouTube Shorts. Crazy. Like that's all they've posted. They don't have long form video. They only have shorts. All of their videos are seconds, not minutes long. And they are getting millions of views. I forget what their subscriber count is at. And so there's this interesting trend that I think YouTube is pushing at the moment, which is pushing shorts. And so one of the things that I want to try, our team off of these podcast episodes creates a lot of clips, and we currently post them as reels. We also just opened our TikTok as well, as we continue to explore that platform and try to help you see how you can be leveraging TikTok for your ministries. So if you're on TikTok, you can follow the Social Media Church on TikTok. But the other strategy that I've encouraged our team to try is, hey, let's be posting once or twice a day all of these historical clips as shorts on YouTube. And let's see if we start to ride a wave on YouTube. And so I'd be encouraging you all, and I want to drop this nugget to you all. I'd love for you to be testing this as well. If you're creating that short form video content and posting it as a reel, or maybe you are on TikTok and you're posting it as a TikTok, don't edit it any differently. Just take that video and post it onto YouTube as a short. Now, I would probably encourage you to not download the TikTok where the TikTok watermark is on there. I would figure out a way to take that video off, or maybe even create it outside of TikTok before that watermark gets on there. But take that exact content that you're posting. You might be posting it as a reel, and download it and post it onto your YouTube channel. And if you do have longer form content there, I think that's great as well. But just see how that starts performing. I'm really intrigued by YouTube Shorts at the moment. And we will be testing that on our end with our channel because we have nothing to lose. And it's kind of an experimental channel anyways, since most of you listen to this podcast. So yeah, YouTube Shorts. So I wanted to drop that nugget off with you guys and just see what happens. I'd love to hear from you guys. Maybe you're already doing this and seeing success with posting shorts. And actually, if that's true, reach out to us. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. You can always tag us on Twitter. You can tag Nils or I on Twitter. We would love to hop in this conversation with you. You can hop into our DMs on Twitter or on Instagram. I am getting less and less helpful at checking or less and less frequent at checking my Facebook Messenger. But you could also reach out to me in there. But I apologize in advance for any delays that might be experienced by me not reaching back out quickly. So yeah, I wanted to offload YouTube Shorts to you. These are just some things that are on my mind at the moment that I just want our community to be testing and thinking about. And then I wanted to spend just a little bit of time addressing this question we got from Nathan Armstrong. Nathan, thank you so much for reaching out. Nathan DM'd our Social Media Church Instagram. And he said, he asked two questions. He said, I'm going to address his second question first, and then I'm going to offload another nugget that he's experimenting with that I want to hear if any of you have started experimenting with. I had never heard of this second, his first question, but the second question that I'm going to address, I'd never heard of the technology that he asked if we had heard about, but I'm curious to know how you all will use it. So it's another one of those things that we're just going to kind of offload, similar to the NFT episode that we recorded a little bit ago. And if you didn't hear that episode, I would encourage you to go back and listen to how your church can start utilizing NFTs. But Nathan asks, he said, currently they are using the technology OBS to stream their live services to YouTube, which is great. He said that's working fine. His question is, should we be using Restream.io to reach more people? And the distinction here between the two, OBS and Restream.io, is that Restream is going to allow him to send his service out to more places to potentially reach more people. And so one of the things I loved about his message as well is he was like, I'm just trying to steward our church finances really well. And I know all of you who are listening, whether you're in the church context or whether you're in a ministry context, you all are trying to steward that money really well and not just buy anything just for the sake of buying it, but you really want to make sure that it's the right choice. And so, let's see, I'm going to answer this question, Nathan, in a way that might be helpful. I hope it's helpful, but it might not be the answer that you expect. So I do believe that the idea of reaching more people is good. And I think that a lot of our new innovation and ideas should be based around, is this going to reach more people? Is this going to advance the gospel in a way that's going to reach more people? I think there was a day and age, and I think we're phasing out of that. If not, we've already phased out of that, where the idea of streaming somewhere live is going to reach people. That used to be the case on Facebook. Like if you wanted to ride the best wave of Facebook, you went live on Facebook, and if you wanted to reach the best wave of people on a certain platform, you went live on YouTube. And if you wanted to reach the best wave of people on Instagram, you went live on Instagram. I think gone are those days. Now, hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm not, in no way am I advocating don't go live on a Sunday morning. Though that day might be coming. But I am saying I don't think going live everywhere with the understanding or the strategy that I'm going to reach more people is correct. And so let me answer this in two parts. So I would say, Nathan, if a large percentage of your church is watching or desiring to watch the service on Facebook, or maybe you have a really active Facebook group, and you just know that at my church, there are a lot of people that interact and are on Facebook, meaning their friends are on Facebook, their social circles are on Facebook. Yes, I would look into, okay, right now we're only streaming to YouTube. There is probably something to be said for us streaming to Facebook, and we're going to reach more people on Facebook because that's where our people are, and that's where their community is, and that's where they're going to be able to share our content. I would look into figuring out how can we stream to more places. Now, what I'm not saying is streaming to more places is going to bring more people in. I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that's how the algorithms are working anymore on social medias. That would not be my strategy. So the second part of this question, so the first part is, where are your people? And if there's another spot that you should be streaming because they're already there and they're almost waiting for you to give them something there, I would look into doing that. The second part of my question would be, maybe you're a little bit more unsure about where they are, or you're wanting to tap into a new area, a new place, maybe something like TikTok that's not explored. Maybe there is an audience waiting there that you have no idea about, or maybe there's an audience on Facebook or on Instagram that you don't know about, but it's not as definitive. Like, you don't know that there are people there. I do not believe the strategy is, hey, let's stream a live service there and go live and see if people respond to that. What I would do is I would look and see, okay, what type of content is performing best on this platform? And then how can I take what happened on a weekend or a message from pastor, and how can I adapt that into the type of content that's performing best on that platform, and then posting there and then seeing what kind of a response you get. And I promise you that going live is not the best type of content on the platform that you might be wanting to explore. And so before you go out and spend money and resources on a new streaming service like Restream.io, which Restream.io is great. And don't get me wrong, it's a great piece of software. It helps churches go out to many different places. That you can stream up to 30 different locations. But what I am advocating for is be intentional. I think that's the theme of this episode here. Be intentional with where you're trying to stream or with how you're trying to reach people, and do that in a way that's actually going to reach people, and not in a way that's maybe convenient or maybe has the illusion of reaching more people. And if you have the bandwidth where you're like, let's do both, let's try to stream here and let's also be posting content here, that's great. But I'm answering this in the spirit of your question of trying to be responsible with church resources. And maybe through the context, maybe it's a smaller church context where you just don't have as many resources to try everything. And so you need to be intentional with what you're trying. I would look at the platforms that you want to maybe tap into a new audience on, figure out the type of content that is performing well there, and then start creating that content based off the Sunday messages. So Nathan, thank you so much for asking that question. If you have follow-up questions, or anybody who's listening to this episode has follow-up questions on maybe what type of content performs well on a different area, or maybe like, hey, Aaron or Nils, we're thinking about going here. Do you know what type of content is performing really well here right now? Ask those questions. We would love to answer that. I'm not going to spend all the time here telling you what type of content is performing well on each social media. I also think there's a level of my answer today could be different tomorrow based on new technology that came out. And so if you're listening to this episode even 6 months later, first of all, thank you. Secondly, our answers right here in 2020, April of 2020, could be different than 6 months down the road at the end of 2020 when you're listening. So reach out to us in the DMs. We will get back to you. We love interacting with you all and being able to help you advance your mission and your ministry using social media. Okay. The second thing that Nathan dropped into the bucket is, and I'm curious if any of you all have heard of it. He asked if I or we had heard of a new app, a new technology called Volley. And he says that Volley is kind of a combination of Slack and Marco Polo. And so if you're familiar with Slack, which you probably are, if not, you can listen to our conversation with Jonah Wiley a few episodes ago talking about Discord, which Discord is basically the next generation's version of Slack. Listen to that episode. You'll understand it. Marco Polo, you may be less familiar with, but Marco Polo is a messaging app where this might not be true anymore. I think they maybe added audio, but you only talk in video. So you record a short video, it gets posted. So think about a group chat, but it's only done with videos. And it's really easy to record the videos. The videos automatically stay in timeline order. So if you're late, like you can watch them on demand, but it's almost like you're having a FaceTime conversation in an on-demand way instead of an in-person way. So I know a lot of people that will have one-to-one conversations. When they get to listening to the video, then they'll leave a response video. And so it's kind of like a delayed FaceTime, but you get to see the other person or the other persons in your group. So that's Marco Polo. Now, Volley is a combination of Slack or Discord and Marco Polo, which I think is really interesting because we want to see each other, but we don't necessarily want to FaceTime in real time, or we don't necessarily have time for that, but we want to be able to see each other. And we also want to have our conversations organized in a group, in kind of like a group setting with all the people that are in our community, which is the Slack piece. So this app, Nathan, Volley, sounds really interesting to me. I will do a little bit more research on it. And I think even Nils and I will do some research on it, see what we can find. But I'm curious, is anybody else who's listening to this episode using Volley? If you are, I would love to hear how that's working for you. Nathan, if you've started using Volley, I would love to hear your thoughts on that, your experience with it. I also think, if I'm remembering the message he sent in correctly, that this is still kind of in beta, like it's still a newer technology. And so there's a chance that it's not fully fleshed out yet, and it might not even be available to the public. But I'd encourage you start looking into it. If not, you can wait for Nils and I to come out with the episode on Volley. But thank you, Nathan. That sounds really interesting. And if anybody listening has other suggestions or thoughts or things that they've run across, in the space of technology. We always want to hear those things so that we can look it up and figure out how we can better serve the kingdom and better advance the gospel. The last thing that I want to drop off before I sign off of this episode, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Really appreciate your listenership. I know that Nils and I just celebrate all the responses that we get, and just even all of the analytical responses we get of like, wow, this many people listen this month, and this many people listen to this month, and this is how many daily listeners we have. Just really exciting stuff. And so we really appreciate your listenership. And one of the ways that we turn those analytics into names and faces, which is what we're all trying to do, especially if we're in a church context, as we go onto social media, we hope that we get to learn the names behind the numbers of likes and behind the numbers of shares. And so one of the ways that we're trying to do that at the Social Media Church is by creating a Discord server. Now, it's twofold. We're going to learn better how to use Discord. We're going to learn about new features. We're going to learn about how the next generation, and I don't even like saying the next generation, younger people and the next wave of social media is using Discord. That that TikTok video from the niece from the TikTok video that I referenced earlier in this episode, actually, she said you to Instagram, but she was on Discord. And so if there's any trends that we're seeing right now, it is this really interesting trend towards Discord as social media. It's where community gathers, but it's also almost like the chat threads almost feel like feeds. So you're almost seeing what memes people are posting, what tweets people are finding. And it's like this huge hive gathering all of these different things, but it's with your friends and it's with your people, or it's with like-minded people. So you can have kind of almost like a friends server, but then you also have these larger branded servers similar to like the Social Media Church, where it's like, oh, I listen to that podcast. I want to be a part of that community. Let me hop in there with all of my other people that love listening to the Social Media Church podcast, that love talking about social media and the church. And so Discord, we all want to be leaned into it. And so let's all learn together. So our team has created this Discord server. And I want to give a shout out to David Exler and Brian Davis. Brian Davis is one of my coworkers at the previous church I worked at, One and All Church in San Dimas, California, which is Southern California. But both of them are who made me realize, oh, maybe our team hasn't been posting the link in the show notes of these episodes, or they have, and y'all are bad at finding it. I don't think it's that. I don't think that's the case, because I'm sure that Brian would have been able to find it, and I know that David, you would have been able to find it as well. So they reached out and they said, "Can we have the link?" So they joined. So they're like two of the OGs in the very first ever Social Media Church Discord server. I think we should actually, because you can assign roles in there, I think we should actually have like the first 100 people that join, or the first people that join by June of 2022 are considered the OGs of the Discord server, the people who are willing to hop in straight away and participate and start getting into conversation there. So all of that to say, we created this to learn together, but we also created it because we want to be in community with all of you as listeners. And maybe we'll even do some fun things in there. Maybe we'll have some rooms. Maybe we'll even record a podcast episode like this live on stage in one of the talk rooms. All that to say, you want to hop into Discord. You want to learn how it works. You want to learn how all those things are that are going on. And so find it in the show notes of this episode, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're listening on podcast, and you can subscribe. You can subscribe to the podcast, but you can also join the Discord server, and we would love to have you be in community there. Our team has worked hard on setting that up. I'm going to take some time after Easter and really kind of polish it off, make sure all the rooms, it's clear how the flow of chat should happen. And y'all can share the invite with people you know as well, and maybe get some new listeners to the Social Media Church podcast. But that's kind of my download, my brain dump, all the things that are on my mind headed into a really busy Easter week. Just know that if you're listening to this later, after Easter, which you definitely will because this is not going to release before Easter, that our church, Shoreline City, as well as myself, we've been praying for you, and we've been praying for your ministry, and that's a regular thing. I don't know if y'all's churches do that, where you're praying for other churches and the ministries that are going on around you. I know that's something that we do at Shoreline City, and that's certainly something that we do at Social Media Church. We want to see your church succeed because ultimately it's going to take all of our churches. If the internet's taught us one thing, is that it's too big for just one church or just three churches. It's too big for just Life Church, just Elevation, just Hillsong, just right. It's going to take all of us taking a different part of the internet and delivering the gospel to all of the people that need to hear the good news of Jesus. And so we've prayed for your Easter. You were prayed for. You're continuing to be prayed for. And so I hope that your Easter went really, really well. And I hope that you're able to, between now and Christmas, learn some new skills and learn some new ideas on how you can even take it, level up between Easter 2022 and Christmas 2022, which are the two biggest days of the year for the church. So we love you all. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd be so kind, we'd encourage you, hit subscribe on this podcast, especially if you've listened to, this might be your first time. You should definitely hit subscribe. Every episode that comes out after this is going to be better. This is the worst episode that you will hear if this is your first time here, because it's only going to get better, especially when it's Nils and I, especially when we have a guest on. We do have some guests coming on soon that are really exciting, that are going to help you level up when it comes to social media and your church's page. But if you've been listening for a while and you're kind of been feeling it out, subscribe. Your subscription allows other people to get in contact with this content wherever you listen on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. Also, write a review. It helps people know, hey, is this podcast actually what it says it is? Is it worth it? Should I listen? If we've impacted you even a little bit in any way, we would love for you to review on there, and we'd encourage you, for the sake of the other people that need to also experience and hear the helpful tips that you've found, writing a review can help do that. Lastly, two more things. I'm going to encourage you again, if you haven't gone to our Discord server, make sure you do that. Hop in there. It's really easy. Even if you've never made an account, it's so easy. You just click the link in like 2 steps. You'll be all set and be able to figure it out and be right alongside us, learning with us. And then lastly, I'd encourage you, head to socialmedia.church. That's our website. That's where you can learn a little bit more about Nils and I. That's where you can see all the things we're working on. That's where you can sign up to be on our mailing list, which you want to be on. That's where you get a sneak peek into the episodes that come out. So we hit publish on a podcast episode, and then immediately after that, an email goes out that gives you a little sneak peek into the episode. So you want to be on our mailing list. That's also where you're going to get special offers, special invites, early access to things. You'll also get the early bird special rate to our second conference that we'll be running in October. That's coming along. We're really excited about the speakers we have already. I can't believe how much stuff has changed between 2021, last year, which was our first conference, and everything that's going to happen in 2022 for our second conference. It's going to be incredible. All the stuff that's going to happen off the back of that conference, you want to be on our mailing list. So make sure that you hop in there, and then obviously follow us on social media. That's the best way to interact with us. That's the best way to get in contact with us. And we would just appreciate your support in that way. So love you all. Hopefully you had a great Easter. Share this episode if it inspired you at all. If there's something in here that somebody needs to hear. Also subscribe to us on YouTube. That's where you can see the cool shirts that Nils and I wear. My shirts are much cooler than Nils's, but Nils has a collar. So if that does something for you, or if that's an important part of your Christian tradition, Nils holds it down for the collar side of the church. So appreciate you all. Appreciate your listenership. And we will catch you on the next episode.